Welcome to the F-Bound Podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Schroeder, Executive Function Coach. I help neurodivergent women learn tips and strategies to improve the life skills that will help them be successful. Tips to build self-motivation with ADHD. Staying motivated can feel like climbing a mountain when you're living with ADHD. One moment you're bursting with energy, and the next, it's like all your drive just vanished. Sound familiar? ADHD makes it tough to stick with tasks no matter how important they are, but that doesn't mean self-motivation is out of reach. With the right strategies and tools, you can build momentum, stay on track, and actually feel good about what you accomplish. Today we're going to talk about building self-motivation with ADHD, not against it. Understanding ADHD and motivation. Self-motivation is tricky when you have ADHD. It's not that you're lazy or unmotivated, it's how your brain is wired. ADHD influences the way you handle focus, effort, and priorities, often making even small tasks feel like massive hurdles. Before diving into strategies to tackle these challenges, it's helpful to understand what's really going on in your brain and why certain tasks just don't click. The science behind ADHD. Let's start with the basics. ADHD affects how your brain processes information, regulates attention, and handles motivation. At its core, it's a neurological condition, which means it's rooted in how your brain functions. Specifically, the ADHD brain has differences in the way it produces and uses dopamine, a chemical that drives motivation and reward. Dopamine acts as your brain's motivator. Typically, people get a surge of dopamine when they check something off their to-do list, but if you have ADHD, this reward system doesn't fire the same way. Tasks that don't immediately grab your interest or offer a big enough reward can feel nearly impossible to even start. Research has linked this to the interest-based nervous system in ADHD. Your brain prioritizes tasks that feel urgent or personally exciting. That's part of why you procrastinate and then pull things out right at the deadline. You tell yourself you work best under pressure. On top of that, ADHD impacts your executive function, the mental processes that help with planning, prioritizing, and completing tasks. Executive function is like the brain's manager. It organizes thoughts, breaks down tasks, and keeps you on track. When this system struggles, things like starting a project or sticking with something until it's done can feel overwhelming. Common motivation challenges. If you're living with ADHD, you've probably noticed how staying motivated feels different for you than it does for others. The challenges aren't about willpower. They're tied to how your brain processes tasks and reward signals. Here are the big hurdles people with ADHD face. Number 1, procrastination. Procrastination isn't laziness, regardless of what people say to you. It's often a result of executive dysfunction. When you're overwhelmed by a task, your brain might hit pause instead of go, making it hard to even begin. You end up avoiding the task entirely, not because it's unimportant, but because starting feels impossible. 2, task initiation. Ever sit there staring at your to-do list, unsure of how to take the first step? You know you need to start. Maybe you even want to start, but you're stuck. That's task initiation, one of the most common struggles with ADHD. Often, breaking a task into smaller, actionable steps can help you get rolling. 3, sustaining attention. Even when you start something, staying focused is another battle. The ADHD brain tends to jump between ideas, especially if a task becomes boring or repetitive. This is why you might get half-done projects piling up. It's not that you don't care, it's that staying engaged takes effort. 4, time blindness. ADHD often brings time blindness, a tendency to lose track of how much time a task takes or how soon a deadline is coming up. This can keep you stuck in a cycle of putting things off until the last minute, which then amps up the stress and urgency. Often you can go into hyperfocus and spend way longer on a task than you planned. 5, perfectionism paralysis. Believe it or not, some ADHDers get stuck because they want everything to be perfect. This creates so much pressure that it's easier to avoid the task altogether than risk falling short of expectations. It's a weird mix of overthinking and underdoing. Every struggle is rooted in how the ADHD brain processes information differently. It's not about being lazy or scatterbrained. It's about learning to work with your brain instead of fighting it. By understanding how ADHD affects motivation, you can start to recognize your patterns and find tools that align with how your brain operates. Practical tips for self-motivation with ADHD. Living with ADHD often feels like trying to assemble a puzzle without knowing where to start. Tasks can seem overwhelming, deadlines might blur, and staying on track may feel like an uphill battle. But here's the good news. Self-motivation, even with ADHD, isn't impossible. It just requires approaches designed for how your brain works best. Breaking tasks into smaller steps. Ever look at a huge task and feel like your brain freezes? That's because big tasks can quickly become overwhelming, especially when you're not sure where to start. The trick? Break it down into smaller, actionable steps. Think of it like taking apart a giant sandwich. You focus on one layer at a time instead of trying to eat the whole thing in one bite. How to do it? Start with the big picture. Write down the main tasks, such as write a report. Then break it into specifics like research ideas, draft an outline, and write one paragraph. Each small step moves you closer to the finish line. Why it works? Smaller steps feel more achievable. Plus, each little win gives your brain that dopamine boost it craves. Struggle to break tasks down? Tools like Goblin.tools can create step-by-step to-do lists for you. Utilizing visual reminders and tools. Ever find yourself saying, wait, what was I supposed to do today? You're not alone. ADHD often makes it tricky to keep track of priorities. That's where visual reminders come in. Whether it's a sticky note, a planner, or an app, having a cue in plain sight can keep you anchored. Ideas to try. Use colorful sticky notes for immediate tasks. Keep a whiteboard in your workspace for daily goals. Explore apps tailored for ADHD like visual cue tools. The science behind it. Visual reminders reduce the need to store everything in your head. Spoiler, that gets exhausting. They cut through mental clutter and give you a clear action path. Establishing routines and structures. Chaos and ADHD often go hand in hand, but routines can be a game changer. Creating a predictable schedule gives your brain a sense of order. Think of routines as your GPS. They guide you so you're not constantly improvising. Tips to build routines. Start with simple non-negotiables list, like breakfast, meds, check your planner. Set a reminder system to cue steps in your routine. Tailor routines to your lifestyle. They should feel supportive, not rigid. Why routines matter. They take the guesswork out of what's next and minimize decision fatigue. Plus, they help fill in the gaps when time blindness leaves you feeling untethered. Incorporating rewards and positive reinforcement. Motivation sometimes needs a little nudge, and ADHD brains thrive on rewards. Positive reinforcement makes tasks feel worth the effort. Think of it as turning work into a game. Every mini achievement leads to a prize. How to set up a reward system. Pair tasks with treats. If I do X, I get Y. Celebrate micro wins like finishing a section of a task. Use apps or systems like reward charts for accountability. Why it clicks. ADHD brains are wired to respond to immediate gratification. So even a small reward triggers the dopamine boost that keeps you moving forward. Finding an accountability partner. Sometimes you just need someone to cheer you on or nudge you when you're stuck. An accountability partner can be a friend, family member, or colleague who helps you stay focused and follow through. What to look for in a partner. Choose someone supportive and reliable, whether it's for virtual check-ins, co-working sessions, or just texting updates on your progress. Why it helps. Knowing that someone is rooting for you can make a big difference. It shifts some of the mental load and keeps you motivated to stay on task. Plus, it's way harder to ignore a deadline when someone else is counting on you. These strategies are about creating systems that work for you. With a mix of tools, support, and self-awareness, you can navigate motivation challenges with ADHD and maybe even surprise yourself with how much you can accomplish. Embracing your neurodivergent mindset. Living with ADHD means your brain operates on a different blueprint than most. While the challenges are undeniable, so are the unique strengths that come with it. Embracing your neurodivergent mindset isn't about erasing your struggles. It's about recognizing that you bring something special to the table. By shifting the focus to acceptance and growth, you can learn to work with your brain rather than against it. Recognizing strengths and talents. ADHD brings with it a set of unique strengths that can be both surprising and rewarding. You might be incredibly creative, deeply empathetic, or astonishingly good at thinking outside the box. These traits are gifts, and they can fuel your motivation once you take time to identify and celebrate them. Spot your superpowers. Think about times when you've thrived. Was it brainstorming solutions in a group? Solving a problem on the fly? Your ADHD brain might struggle with tedious tasks, but it often shines in areas like creativity, intuition, and hyperfocus. For example, some people with ADHD discover they excel at multitasking under pressure or connecting ideas others wouldn't think to link. Write them down. Jot down examples of moments when you felt accomplished or confident. Did you design an innovative solution at work? Offer a powerful perspective in a meeting? Seeing these achievements in writing reinforces their reality and helps you appreciate what's uniquely yours. Flip the narrative. Struggle with being too distracted? Reframe it as a talent for thinking broadly. Can't stick to one subject? Maybe you're a big picture visionary who thrives on variety. ADHD challenges can often reveal hidden capabilities when viewed from a strengths-based perspective. By shifting your mindset to seeking and appreciating your strengths, you create a foundation of confidence. Your ADHD doesn't define your limits, it highlights areas where you can truly shine. Creating a positive self-image. Living in a world that often misunderstands ADHD can wear down your confidence. Maybe you've internalized negative messages over the years, leading to feelings of inadequacy. But here's the truth. The way you see yourself matters more than the way others see you. Start with self-compassion. You've probably been hard on yourself for forgetting details or missing deadlines. But remember, ADHD isn't a character flaw, it's a neurodevelopmental condition. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you love. Replace the harsh inner critic with a voice of kindness. Celebrate effort, not just outcomes. ADHD can make completing tasks feel monumental, so give yourself credit for showing up, for trying, learning, and growing. Did you spend 15 minutes organizing today? That counts. Motivation grows when effort is acknowledged and celebrated. Rewrite the story. Identify the limiting beliefs holding you back. Think, I'm so inconsistent? Flip it to, I adapt quickly in dynamic situations. Reframing these thoughts helps you see yourself in a positive, empowered way. Find your people. Surround yourself with people who value your quirks and support your growth. Online ADHD communities or local support groups can be a lifeline. Simply connecting with others who understand what you're going through can remind you that you're not alone. Cultivating a positive self-image takes time, but every small step matters. When you acknowledge your worth, you're better equipped to stay motivated and navigate challenges with resilience. Remember, ADHD doesn't diminish your potential. In fact, it gifts you with traits and talents uniquely suited to your journey. By embracing your neurodivergent mindset, you create space to thrive on your own terms. The key is to work with your brain, not fight it. Recognize your strengths, celebrate your wins, and use strategies that align with your unique needs. Self-motivation with ADHD is entirely achievable when you have the right tools and mindset. What step will you take today to set yourself up for success? Try one small change and see where it leads. You might just surprise yourself. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the F-Bomb Podcast. Thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe below and check out my show notes to learn more about my Facebook group, courses, and membership.